Greetings, family. Rahubat Muisar. My name is Sakam Raye, and welcome to another Ask Us Anything video on OSM Vision, where you choose 3 questions you would like us to answer, film yourself asking those questions, and then you submit them and we answer them for you. So you ask us 3 questions by filming yourself, and then once you're satisfied with the filming, you can upload it to osmvision.wetransfer.com and we'll get those questions answered for you. All right, so let's get to the 3 questions for today.
Greeting, Brother OSM. I want to start by saying, free Dr. Malachi D. York. He needs his liberation, and we need him for the sake of humanity. The world is in a topsy-turvy situation now. The next thing I want to say is, I really appreciate you taking your time out to make these videos so that brothers like me can learn more about what we weren't taught. My first question would be, can you expand more on the black nobility and how they are, for a lack of a better term, the black faces with white masters on?
Okay, so the first question is if we could expand on the black nobility. The first thing, as you know, with Wu-Sabat, we've been trained and taught by way of the master teacher, Panda Babyanun. And thank you for your kind words, and thank you for emphasizing that he needs to be free. Dr. Malachi Z.K. York needs to be free. He is innocent, and for the liberation of our people and for humanity, he needs to be released eminently. He needs to be released now, all right? Yeah, so thank you for your, reaffirmation of that innocence and for him to be freed. And thank you for your kind words in terms of what we do as student teachers of the master teacher to help spread the good news of Wu-Sabat and the teachings that will liberate us completely to a different mindset as humanity, so that we can, learn to live in love and unity. Okay, so one of the things we always emphasize as Sabians, Nuwapians, is to break down words. When you say black nobility, firstly, the beings or the people you're referring to as black, I know it's become a programmed thing where just to recognize what people would call the African race, we would say black. But when you're really talking about the term black as in a color, you're really dealing with the East Indian or the Dravidian. Okay, so these titles and these names are really misnomers to us because we want people to know that we are Nuwapians or Sabians. The word nobility gives the illusion or alludes to someone of good character, right? Of good standing. So when we're saying black nobility, it sounds like these are people that they have a good or a noble character. When in reality, what we're really talking about are people who, in modern term, we would refer to as mainly like sellouts, coconuts, meaning Oreos, meaning that they're black on the outside or considered to be black as in Negroid on the outside, i.e. in their physical appearance, but internally they think and behave other than that. Because a real noble Nagaru or Negroid deals with truth, peace, harmony, justice, equality, for all human beings, right? This is why the true Africans never went to colonize anybody else or spread their diseases or wars or steal, from anybody else. Instead, we were welcoming, loving, caring, sharing, and we're still that way till this day. So in contrast, when you're saying black nobility and referring to those people who, some people say they were aristocrats, meaning that when you go back in time and look at any sort of like, whether it's from a religious perspective or a state perspective in terms of black people or so-called black people that were around during, the times of, like in the 1800s or times when so-called slavery was abolished, or another term that comes to mind are people who are referred to as mulatto, which is a term that really, in this day and time, has been, desecrated to the point where people will say mixed race, or they will say that, you're now, you look black but you act white, or you've got this nature that is other than the nature of the natural Africans or African people. So these people would be the people that would have, sworn allegiance to, say, in the religious world, like, even when they were showing you on TV the other day where they're trying to choose the new pope, you saw amongst them some Negroids as well. And you wonder to yourself, would there ever be a black pope? Just like people say, would there be a black president, or would they be this, or would they be that? The reality is that these are the people who people refer to as gatekeepers. When I said Oreos and I said coconut, that's dealing with, like I said, people who look one way but think mentally, intentionally another way. And they're really there to give you false hope. Here in the UK right now, we have people who say, would there ever be a black prime minister? The Obama situation as a president in the past, people were saying the first black president, but you had John Hanson and others in the past. But I use that example because you're dealing with when someone is a mulatto or someone is, like in his case, was mixed, being black and white. Again, I'm only using those terms loosely because, we know there's no such person as a white person and there's no such thing as a black person. I'm saying that for those who may be new to the channel or new to this information, because when you start to break people down using correct terminology and words, you have to go to the fact that if somebody is pale because they have an absence of melanin, then you can't call them white when you consider a white piece of paper to that person, you see? So the same as the color black, you can't call a person black as in this because, clearly our skin complexions, it's not that, although there are those who may lean to that, but it's really, when we call ourselves black, is more to do with the energy in terms of dark matter, blackness, supreme balancement, not necessarily the color, because all colors combined are black anyway, so we're all colors combined. Anyway, not to digress. Yeah, so the black nobility, or the people that are put in place to give you false hope, and they are really there to serve their master. And then when you look at it from a scriptural point of view, you're told you cannot serve two masters. So they are there to give you this false hope of you belong, right? I could even use the example of, say, somebody like Michael Jackson, who was known to be very popular, as an entertainer. And he even went from being a black Negroid with an afro hair, natural as we call it, big nose, big lips, just the features of a Negroid. And due to racism and wanting to be accepted, literally went from that to being a Caucasian looking type of person, meaning he had straight hair, no longer the afro. He had pale skin, so pale that, I think there's a video, I can't remember if it's black and white or something, but pale skin, which is completely in the spectrum from the original complexion he had, right over to the extreme or the other side. His lips was thin, his nose was thin because he, did plastic surgery, etc. So he literally went from a black male to looking like a white female. And I'm saying that to say, even with doing all of that, was he still accepted fully? No. Was Obama fully accepted? No. And when you start to look at people that have influence and power and so forth, wealth, they're not necessarily there to what's the word I'm looking for? To promote their culture, to stand for what it is to be Nagaru or Negroid. So yes, you do have these, and even I can go to as far as religious groups, such as maybe like the Hebrew Israelites and certain people who will say King James was black, and and they push this thing, but forgetting that it doesn't really matter if you turn everyone in the scripture black. Truth is truth. Like, they either were or they weren't. And when the master teacher Panda Babianun teaches and gives you the facts, regardless of color, race, whether you like him or not, he gives you the truth. People will say, oh, he's racist, or it's a racist organization. And then when we break down the word, what does it mean to be racist? Like to be a guitarist or a pianist or whatever else that has that ist at the end of it, is to prefer your race. And everyone should prefer their race. You naturally prefer your race anyway. It doesn't mean to hate the other race. It's just you prefer your race. And they will say things like, oh, he's got black pictures in the books of Jesus and Muhammad and whoever. Besides the fact that this is what they actually really look like, he's giving you pictures of everyone. You will see pictures of every race in the books, like Caucasians, Asians, whoever it is, he gives you their true likeness. So yeah, I'm saying that to say that there's nothing noble about lying, pretending not to be yourself, or being a gatekeeper to hold people back, or to give them false hope, or to make them think they're going to be a part of that elite, whether it's in the music industry or whether it's in the entertainment industry or whatever. Like, you got to wake up and smell the coffee and be yourself, and not feel that you need to be accepted within their structures where you're being limited and will never really fulfill your full potential or express yourself fully, because there are restrictions. Why you will see that more of the lighter shades of our race, they will be given more advantage in certain aspects than others, So it's a very deep question, but we try to elevate and be a part of something. It's like trying to be a part of the Bible and, Jesus is black. Okay, so what? At the end of the day, it's like, that's a false hope when you can just be who you are, don't have to be in a situation where you have to compromise yourself and, trying to be accepted in a situation where you're never going to be allowed, to be the best and be the best that you can within that structure. So it's like, why complain about the school curriculum, or like, why fight to be accepted when you could have your own, which is actually back to front, because if you were the ones that had the best schools, the best libraries, the best information, and you taught and civilized the rest of the world, why would you now be fighting to be sub or underneath someone that you taught to teach you, and knowing that their agenda is never to make you over them? So, reality is that these so-called black nobility are not noble at all. They're not doing things that would warrant them to be noble. It's like saying, you're honorable gentlemen, in certain places, when you're not honorable at all, because when we start to investigate and look at what you're actually doing, it's not of noble or honorable, wouldn't be described that way. So, yeah, it's one of these tricknology, that's trick knowledge, to make you feel that you're a part or you're accepted, or that you really have any power, when ultimately you don't. All right. So let's go on to the second question.
That's my first question. My second question is, what exactly do you believe the 2030 agenda actually is?
Okay. Again, this is what we say. Don't believe. Check it out. For those who don't know, the 2030 agenda, there are different aspects of it, but you will hear it really coming from like the United Nations and from world governments, where they're talking about how things are going to be improved by 2030. Things like solving the problem of poverty, equality, and, just basically trying to improve the world, right? Which on the face of it sounds like a great idea, because you will hear people say things like AI is going to take over all the jobs, or at least 90 or above in terms of a percentage of all the jobs. And then people say, well, if that is the case, what's going to happen to the people that are employed right now? And people say, well, it's not all doom and gloom, because it just means that AI is going to be doing all the mundane, or artificial intelligence with robots, etc. They're going to be doing all the mundane tasks, and people are going to have more freedom and more time to pursue things that are more, they find more gratifying. Okay, so that sounds like a great thing. So they will say, people are going to now focus on perhaps pursuing some interests that, they couldn't do before, because they didn't have any time, because they were working all the time. But then other people will say, but you won't have no money because you won't have a job. But they're like, no, it's going to make it easier. Everyone's going to have housing. Everyone's going to have, enough to eat. Everything's going to, but there's always a flip side to everything. And reality is, you're dealing with a world, the new world order, where, yes, you may be in a situation where IT or technology is going to basically, improve things, But at the same time, it's also going to be in control of your life. So, things like CBDCs that are coming in, that's the central bank digital currencies, cryptocurrencies, you're being monitored, and everything that you do is, linked. Everything in your life, it's almost like civil liberties as well are being taken away and control. So there's a whole other side to the story that is being shared in terms of 2030 and how great it's going to be. But there are also things, there's always positive and negative, or agreeable and disagreeable to any situation. And you may feel that something is good for you and then later on realize that it actually isn't. So we know that, the world is not going to be the same as you think it is, because we've reached that time where we've been teaching for a long time, which is the new 24,000 year cycle, which started in the year 2000, where the devil's rule or six ether forces, basically their time's up. You're dealing with extinction, and you're dealing with a six ether being known as Adamite that is desperately trying to hold on to power because, like I said, it's time for extinction, because they were allotted 6,000 years from around 4004 BC to 2000 AD, which is where we get the 6,000 years from. And these Adamites were programmed with their telomeres to fade away after that 6,000 years from the year 2000 AD. And this is what we're witnessing. And how is that going to take place? By many, many, many ways and forms, including diseases, viruses, wars, tornadoes, earthquakes, famine, so many things that we've witnessed happen since the year 2000, flooding, you see it all the time. And so this means, as you can see, for example, with what's going on with, we don't really get involved as our culture in terms of politics, but we do still live in the world and we can see what's going on. So, people are being displaced. People are complaining about immigration and people leaving and running away from instabilities and chaos and wars, whether they're natural in terms of floods, earthquakes, hurricanes, or like in the case of wars with Ukraine and Russia and Gaza and Palestine and Israel. These are all things that are leading to deaths and the unaliving of many people. And, it's going to get to a point where, like, your liberties or your freedom is going to be limited because, for example, if you lose everything because of war and then you have to take refuge somewhere else, and as you see going on in the UK right now as well, where people are protesting, you had the Robinson, protest the other day, and people are very, like, on edge because racism plays into that. Because people are saying, you're coming over to our country, you're taking our jobs, you're taking the hotels, the wars that are going on, people are being displaced, there's no food, some people are starving to death. It's very political political instability at the moment. So that all ties in with the day and time we're in, as in the Aquarius, or the new cycle, which we know as the sun cycle. And because certain things have to take place before it gets better, we know that as we approach 2030 and beyond, that we're going to see, unfortunately, a lot of chaos. And with the added risk of AI taking over, or robots, or, these robots, as you know, taking over, it means that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes in the world. And, you're given IDs to identify you, your banking system, your social services. Everything is going to be all tied and connected to this new world order, one world government, one world religion, all of these things. Big Brother, the master teacher, Partner Babyanun, explained and taught us were coming, back in the 80s, 90s, the Luciferian conspiracy, being implemented. And so, yeah, we're at a stage where you really need to be in the right place with the right people to learn what you need to do to avoid being caught up in these agendas that on the face of it might look like a good thing, but then there's always a flip side to that. And many people are speaking on this and teaching about, the shortages of food, water, shelter, and many things. So communities such as ours is here to educate, to teach, to share, to let you know so that you can actually prepare and be in the right place at the right time with the one who knows, the guide, who will guide you to safety. All right? I hope that helps you in some way. Okay, the last question we're going to go to.
And then my third question would be, besides Dr. Malachi Z. York L teaching you, did you guys develop a relationship besides that? Thank you for taking my question, and I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Okay, yeah, that third question threw me off a bit. I think the question was, did you develop a relationship with the master teacher apart from him teaching us? I think what I get from that is, did I have a personal relationship with the master teacher other than him teaching us? And I would say yes. However, we all have a personal relationship, but at different levels or different ways, meaning that, we have to recognize that you're a physical person, you're a spiritual person, you're a mental person, or you have these beings within you. And some of us are fortunate to have met him physically, be in his presence, and had a relationship with him where we know for sure who he is, and we're not talking out of like hearsay or belief, like in the sense of, people talk about, say, Jesus today, but they've never ever met Jesus or saw him or even realized that it's a plagiarized story, and a story that has been told many times amongst different cultures using different titles, right? So many people, or whoever, Muhammad, or people that you've never met or seen, whereas Dr. York, Dr. Malachi Z. York, and Partner Babyanun, as we affectionately refer to him, is real. Like, we sat with him, we spoke with him, we had a meal together, we've spoken, touched him, walked with him, so we know he's real. And that's why we can confirm for ourselves that have been in his presence. We know what that feels like. We know, we've seen him laugh and, be like your best friend, like your uncle, like your father, like, an elder. Like, whatever way you've experienced him or think about somebody, we've experienced him in that way. But you can also have a spiritual connection where you can meet him and, on the spiritual realm, or, visit him on the spiritual realm and have a contact with him on the mental realm. Just like you can connect with him mentally, you can connect with him spiritually. So everyone has had their personal experience. I can say he's my personal savior, because I literally know him, and I've been in a situation. When I say I know him, no one really knows him, but what I'm saying is that you know he's real. Like, he's not a figment of your imagination or someone that you've just read in books or history books or stories that have been passed over and relayed over and over again. Like, I never physically met Malcolm X or Martin Luther King or Noble Joe Ali or the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Yahweh Ben Yahweh. But there are other people who did and have and were there and walked and talked with him and supped with him. So I can say that for me with someone I know to be real. So yes, I wrote letters and received letters, saw him physically, been in classes with him, went out to eat with him, and been around Tamaray when he was around teaching. And I have spiritual experiences too with him and like others. So if you mean in that sense, then yes, most definitely. I think that's why the conviction, the dedication, and the consistency, like, these are all things we witnessed and learned from him. Like, his dedication to teaching the truth, the dedication to writing books on every subject that we wanted to know about, the dedication to holding on, the dedication to be that example of divine love, or a shuk, as we say in our language, that regardless of what he's been through and been put through, he's still able to give of himself. And that's what we try to, as much as possible, live and emulate. So yeah, good question. Many people around the world, and again, for those who have, comment down below and let us know, like, your personal experience with the master teacher, Dr. York, because that just makes it real for others who never had the same opportunity. I know people who have never met him, and they're just as dedicated, they're just as studious, they're just as, zealous in terms of their zeal for the truth, for right knowledge, right wisdom, and right understanding. And we're relentless in, because if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. So what's the best thing to stand for is truth, regardless of the consequences that come along with that. And yes, so Dr. Malachi Z. York is the best example for me, for others, in demonstrating love, care, compassion, ethics, just the way he is, the being he is, the amount he gives of himself, So yeah, thanks for the 3 questions. I do, trust the ancestors that you received the answers you were looking for. And for anybody else, Wu-Sabat is real, as real as it can ever get. And you will know that for yourself. You will find what you're looking for. You look for fault in something, you're going to find the fault. You look for truth in it, you'll find the truth. So yeah, if you have 3 questions you would like to also get answered, film yourself, preferably good lighting, good sound, good quality, as best as you can, asking your 3 questions, and then upload them once you're happy to osmvision.wetransfer.com. And as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, and most of all, hit that notification bell so that we can keep you updated with everything we do on OSM Vision and on Wu-Sabat. And just in leaving, I would say, make sure that you support us, in what we do, because every little helps. Support our projects in building a studio, support our 100 project where we're building communities, and support the legal efforts. Go to unitedsabiansworldwide.com and search how can I help, and just do your part to help this, help humanity, as you asked, like help us free Dr. York so that he can help free us from the agendas that are not really, that are from these disagreeable beings that don't really want to see you free. Rather, they want to control you and control everything about you. And we're not going to let that happen. So join Wu-Sabat, join a Wu-Sabat community, study, learn, and apply what you're being taught by way of Wu-Sabat. All right? Until next time, I'm Saken. Thank you for your support. Wadu.